What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Jinstakill in the building here, running some benchmarks on Black Myth Wukong. This is one of the most highly anticipated games of 2024. Cannot wait. Very excited. People are saying it's a Souls-like game. It is in a way, but it's not also in a way. I feel like more God of War vibes from it, except you can't choose what difficulty you're gonna play on, right? So that's why they say it's more Souls-like. However, there are a lot of differences in the games. There's been a lot of controversy about Black Myth Wukong. I'm not trying to hear none of that. None of that. If I like a game, I'm gonna play the game. Me personally, I'm more of a first-person shooter. I play Counter-Strike. I play COD, ranked multiplayer. I play all kinds of different competitive games. Just recently, I've been playing Sekiro. I played Elden Ring. Played Elden Ring Shadow of Erdtree, and so now we're moving on to Wukong. Gonna see how this goes. We're doing this basically a stress test, a benchmark to see what settings would be best for an RTX 3080 12GB version, not the 10GB version VRAM, with a 5800X processor. I have 64 gigs of I want to say CL16 RAM. Plenty of cooling in there too, so that's not an issue. The only thing is this game is very high intensity. The graphics are beautiful on this game, and you know, I don't want my viewers to not get to see the details that I want to see. I'm an audio and video snob, so when it comes to audio and video, there are things that will bother me, some things that won't, but for the most part, I want this to be at its peak performance and its peak graphics at the same time. So what I do here in this video is basically just kind of see what settings need to be tweaked in order for us to get the best out of it, to try to get the best FPS, but also still be getting the best graphics possible. I was under the impression that, you know, you'd need a 4000 series graphics card with newest gen processor, but that's not the case. So just make sure that you watch the whole video, watch all of the benchmarks. I will speed up the benchmarks just because they take so long to watch. Some of them I actually did cut down, just because I already knew, okay, I'm not going to be able to run it at this setting. So, you know, I'll still put them in the video just so you can see what the results are. Kinda, you'll see the FPS, and there's like basically no reason for me to continue. I also cut up some benchmarks where I looked at the graphics and I was like, I don't like the way it looks. So just bear with me, watch the video. If you have a big screen TV, that's beautiful. You can watch it on that and see how it looks on there, and just see how, you know, you like the graphics on the settings that I'm putting it on. I figure the majority of people are either gonna have a 3000 series like me, or they're gonna have like a lower 4000 series graphics card. I think that any lower 4000 graphics card is going to pretty much be where I'm at with this 3080, except the fact that y'all have frame generation, which can help with your FPS being higher. I don't know exactly what all it's gonna do in terms of your quality of graphics. However, I do know that it will boost your FPS. So make sure you test that on your own, because I don't have a 4000 series graphics card. But I really appreciate everybody watching. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that noti bell so you know when I drop new content, or when I go live, and make sure you hit this like button, man. The like button is free. You know what I'm saying? I just want to spread this to as many people as I can that are, you know, just wondering what this game's going to be like and don't have the time to run the benchmark, or don't have the patience to run the benchmark. Because personally, I don't have the patience, but I'm doing it for you guys. So I really appreciate y'all watching. Without further ado, here we go. Let's start it. So as it stands, I have my graphics set 75 super resolution DLSS, no frame generation, no ray tracing, and actually it did not come cinematic. It came on very high. So we're gonna run it on very high first, and we're gonna see how that goes. I didn't change anything else, but we'll run that and then we'll see how that goes. I'm gonna speed it up so that way it doesn't play forever. All right, so as y'all can see, I'm averaging about 62 FPS, which is actually not that bad for a base FPS. It's not too bad. Minimum went down to 49, low fifth is 55, and used 5.3 gigs of VRAM. So this is actually not so. I think we can definitely play the game smoothly without, any kind of freezes or anything like that at 60 FPS. This is not like your shooters like COD and CS where you need really high frames in order to for the game to perform the way that you want it to. These games typically you're looking at 60 FPS being your base frames per second, and then 90 being ideal, in my opinion. Usually that, now nowadays you got 4K. So really, if you're at 4K running 60 to 90 FPS, you're golden. So don't think that you have to have like 100 plus or 200 plus FPS in order to get a good gaming experience out of these kind of games. These are a little different. These are much more graphic intense. There's a lot more, NPCs and AI in the game. There's a lot more attention to detail in the graphics in the game rather than just straight up PvP, maximum 12 people in a game type of thing. There's like thousands of enemies on the maps and, things like that. So you have to keep that in consideration as well. So this is actually a pretty good benchmark. I'm running at 1080p on this benchmark. So that was the 1080p at 75 DLSS. All this was just how it came default. Okay, so now we're gonna try it on cinematic and see what we get. 1080p cinematic. Okay, so 54 FPS is the average, getting a max of 63 and a minimum of 47. Low fifth is 48, and then 5.4 gigs VRAM used. Not bad, not bad at all. Figured I would get somewhere around mid 50s. Remember, this is once again on 1080p with cinematic preset, no ray tracing, 75 on the DLSS. I am curious as to how it's going to perform with ray tracing because the graphics are so beautiful in this game. I kind of want to see how it looks with ray tracing. I know ray tracing is probably going to destroy my results, but I still want to see what it looks like because it's such a beautiful, like, the sceneries are beautiful in this game. So we're gonna enable, okay, full ray tracing. Yeah, I'm gonna put the ray tracing on very high. We're just gonna push it to the limit on cinematic. I'm sure it's gonna tell me to restart the game, so just bear with me. We're on cinematic 1080p with ray tracing on very high. I assume that the my FPS will be in the 20s, but we'll see what happens. Let's just double check here, make sure that the settings are on the way I wanted it to be. Yes, on very high, everything on cinematic. Let's see what happens here. Okay, so as y'all could see, just from the beginning of that, how it wasn't smooth. It's just stuttering the whole time. Average of 28 FPS, 36 was the maximum, which is at the end where there was pretty much no detail. 20 FPS minimum, which means we went all the way down to 20 FPS. Low fifth is 24 FPS, and it used way more VRAM. But it's still at a decent amount of VRAM being used. But this is on the highest possible settings with on cinematic, as well as with very high ray tracing on. So it's actually gonna be, it's not gonna be that bad. I'm actually now wanting to tweak the settings to try to see if I can get some ray tracing, because if you notice the difference in the lighting and in the details of all the like blades of grass, everything, it looks so much better this way. So we're gonna go ahead and see if we can tweak these settings on 1080p to where we can get ray tracing on, but still be able to play the game. I want to see what I can do to try and get some ray tracing and also still play the game. I'm gonna start out, let's start out with applying recommended. This is on, remember, I'm on an RTX 3080, the 12 gig, not the 10 gigabyte, but the 12 gigabyte. So it looks like the vegetation quality is set to high. I'm thinking that obviously the vegetation is probably like the grass and the trees and things like that. I kind of want that to be on very high, and the global illumination I also kind of want to be on very high. However, I want to have the game be playable and still look good at the same time. So with ray tracing on, it's suggesting I run on very high on these, high on vegetation, high on global, and run ray tracing on low. I also kind of want to see how it's gonna look with a little bit of less super resolution, but we're gonna run it like this first. It's recommended graphic settings. Let's see how it looks, and if it looks good and we're getting decent FPS, then we're gonna just roll with this for the 1080p. I've heard that the frame generation technology is actually really good. It does help a lot, but I can't enable it on mine. I think that's for the 4000 series. You can probably use frame generation to kind of boost your FPS, whereas on the 3000 series you can't. But so we're gonna see how this looks. Let's see how it looks. Hopefully we can get a good benchmark on this. So this is on very high, vegetation and global on high, and full ray tracing on and low. And if we can get anywhere near 50, I think it'll look smooth. As long as it looks smooth while it's running, we'll see. Okay, so the reason why I cut off the benchmark, mid benchmark, is simply because that's probably where the most traffic is right there. So I just wanted to see where I was gonna be, and we're gonna tweak this a little bit, just to try to get some. First of all, I want the vegetation on high, very high, excuse me. Maybe even cinematic. Hair quality, I guess, is not that big of a deal, but I don't think that's going to make much of a difference on any of this anyway. Reflection on very high is straight. Global illumination, so this is lighting of scenes and characters, which I really want on very high. I just have a feeling it's going to destroy my FPS, but we'll see. We can put views, yeah, anti-aliasing, yeah, that's fine. Post effects, shadow quality maybe we can put a little lower, because shadows, I mean, they do make a difference, so I'll put it on high. Texture quality on very high. That's for like buildings, characters, items, things like that. Visual effects, very high is okay, I guess. I feel like maybe we can lower that, but I think in game, when there are particles and when metal is hitting metal and stuff like that, that's gonna be kind of important. Hair quality, yeah, let's lower that. And reflection quality, of course, is the water reflection, which it doesn't really matter, but it does look better, right? So we're gonna put ray tracing. Let's put it on medium with these settings here. Okay, this is a little tweaked out. This is how I would want it to be. I'm going to keep my super resolution on 75. We've been keeping it there the whole time. So let's confirm this and let's see what we get on 1080p here. Okay, so that actually didn't look that bad, but I did notice that we were getting down to the lower 40s. Not gonna work for me, man. Not smooth enough. So we gotta tweak some more here. Um, Trying to think of what we can lower. Maybe the vegetation to very high rather than cinematic. I think that's the main factor is the vegetation. Um, that's going to be the main factor. And the illumination, I really want it to be higher just because the lighting probably looks way better that way. But we're just going to keep it like this. How about this? Let's change DLSS more to performance. Let's go to 50. Let's go balanced. How about that? 50, 60 maybe? 60. So now it's balanced on the DLSS with medium ray tracing and pretty much everything on high. Let's go ahead and just put everything in. I'm going to put the vegetation on cinematic and let's see how this comes out. Doing some tweaks here. And I'm going to show all of these simply because you may be okay with running lower settings or higher settings and lower FPS or whatever your combo is. It's up to you, is how you want to play, as long as it can run properly. But we're going to go with this and let's see how this runs. Okay, so that wasn't that bad, but it also wasn't that good. 52 average, 65 max, 41 minimum, 44 low fifth. Let's keep tweaking, man. Let's keep tweaking until we figure it out. Now you may be okay with that. So if that's the case, then there you go. You got your settings, but um, I'm not too happy with it. Let me see what I can do. I want that ray tracing because it does look different. Gonna have to lower that maybe. Drop this down to more performance, a little closer to performance, and let's see how that goes. So that is closer to where we want to be. 58 FPS average, 69 max, 46 minimum, 5.6 gigs of VRAM used. Much closer. Much closer. I think the graphics still looked decent. Not quite what I want it to look like. But I mean, this is pretty much the best it's gonna get for me to be able to get the kind of frames that I want, unless I turn off ray tracing. So turning off ray tracing, I can easily get, you know, a much higher number, especially if I keep it on the super resolution that I'm at right now and keeping the settings on very high. So just keep that in mind if that's how you want to play it. All right, so now if I wanted to play the game how I wanted to play it, I can almost guarantee that this is how I would play it, with super resolution down to performance on 50 and no ray tracing. So this is how I would play the game. Super resolution being at 50, full ray tracing off, and everything on cinematic. This is how I would play it. So let's see what this comes out to. Okay, so I'm not gonna lie to you. Now that I've seen the game with ray tracing on consistently versus watching it without ray tracing, it's kind of rough on the eyes. Can't lie. But we did get a much better FPS, as you can see, averaging 68 FPS. So I mean, if graphics, if you're not like a, you know, if you're not a snob about your graphics, this is a good spot right here. Having an RTX 3080 with a 5800X processor. I have 64 gigs of RAM. RAM can make a little bit of a difference in FPS, but not a huge difference. So don't really consider that too much. It might make a difference of like 3 FPS in a game like this. So, but now I'm caught in the middle where I saw how it looks with ray tracing on, and I don't think I'm gonna be able to go back now. So I have to figure out a way to have the game with ray tracing on. Even if it's on low, I'll probably be okay with that. And put on DLSS with performance, and we might have to go with some of these things being on very high, or even high rather than on cinematic. I think pretty much everything is gonna be set to very high except for I think I'm gonna have to run it all very high on 50 performance with ray tracing on low, and we'll see how that looks. That's absolutely outstanding. How? 83 average, 101 max, 60 FPS min? How? That's the most outstanding results we've gotten. We're going to see what happens when we go to medium ray tracing on the same exact settings. I will say that I really wish the cinematic settings, I really wish the vegetation settings were on cinematic just to see the difference, but I'm just going to keep it where it's at and put it on medium. If we can get good results like that on medium, these will be the settings that I run Black Myth Wukong on. Wow. Let's see. Again, truly fantastic results. 79 average, 100 max, 61 min. Wow. I will say that the graphics, I mean, looking at the vegetation, not where I want it to be. So let's keep it where it's at, and I'm gonna put the vegetation up, and let's just see what it comes out to. I almost want to run this on high. On high ray tracing, but it wouldn't be any good if this isn't up. So we're just gonna run it on medium and see how that comes out. 74 average, 95 max, 55 min. This is looking good, y'all. Very good. So I've almost pinpointed where I want to be at. I want to see if I can maybe make the textures of the like structures and the walls and things like that look better and still keep just around the same. This is crazy because I have everything on very high except for vegetation being on cinematic. I want to say, what is it? The texture quality is, yeah, this is for the buildings and the characters. Visual effects. Okay, so that's not it. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for, um, just wanting to see. distances look better. Objects look better. Adjust the rendering quality of distant objects. Choosing a higher level increases the detail and density. So we're going to put that on cinematic and texture quality on cinematic. We're still on medium ray tracing, which looks beautiful. The lighting is beautiful in this benchmark. I'm thinking maybe we can move this down a little bit, but I'm going to keep it where it's at. If we can average over 60 FPS with cinematic settings mixed in with very high settings, I'll be very happy. Let's try it again. That's a great test. A great test. 74 average, 93 max, 55 at the min, with a low fifth of 62. That is what we're looking for, y'all. I do want to see if I can push this ray tracing to high. So let's see what happens. And if not, all good, because those graphics were nice. Very nice. Let's find out. Okay, so I will say 100% that this game is playable with these settings here. 100%. They can definitely be played on these settings here. I did notice little tiny details like the grass on all the other settings with the vegetation on cinematic and everything. Ray tracing, if it's not on high, I saw that the grass would kind of glitch, kind of had like little sparkles in it. Whereas when you have the full ray tracing on high, you don't get that. You see the grass just the way it should be. So, I mean, little details like that. I'm a little bit of an audio and a video snob. So when I see certain things that bother me, they bother me. But seeing that I get a 57 average, which is very close to 60, 73 max, and a 46 min, I did not see much to complain about. Maybe a tiny bit of stuttering, just a tiny bit of stuttering here and there. But obviously benchmarks, they're a stress test, so it's gonna test most of the heaviest loads that the game is going to process. So considering that, 57 average is not bad. Like I said in the beginning of the video, 60 is your good base where you want to be at for games like this. Now, if you're running a 4000 series, you might be able to get better FPS just simply by turning on frame generation, and maybe even, tweaking some other settings here and there. But from what I can tell, man, this is going to be completely runnable on a 3080 with a 5800X. The 5800X isn't even the best processor right this second. I mean, 5800X 3D is much better than a 5800X. And then the 7 series, 7000, what was it? The 70, I think it's the 7800X 3D. That one is much better than this 5800. So if you have a better processor, if you have a 4000 series, maybe like a 4070 or better, you're going to be able to run this game perfectly with, great settings, high settings with ray tracing, full ray tracing with frame generation. But for anybody who's running a 3000 series, just know you're going to have to make some concessions. But man, not bad at all. This will be very playable. I will be playing this game. I will be going live. I will also be putting out videos for this game. So y'all be on the lookout for that. I am very excited about Black Myth Wukong. So that is the clear winner for me. That's what I will run this game on, simply because I want the best graphics I can get while streaming. I do have a dual PC streaming setup, so that way I don't have to worry about having to use a whole bunch of my resources for streaming and recording at the same time while I'm playing. So everything that you saw here today is simply, 100% my PC and not getting hindered by any recording or any streaming while I'm doing it. I do have basically 2 extra monitors, which also does put a strain on my CPU. If you don't know, some people will say, no, that's not true, but it's 100% true. When you have more monitors, you're putting more strain. You're using up more resources on your CPU. So if you want to play a game like this, I would recommend maybe not using extra monitors, maybe just one single monitor, so that you can put all your resources into this and get a better frames per second. But that's it right there, guys. Clear cut winner is those settings that I showed you. I'll put it up on the screen again before I go. But I appreciate y'all watching. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that noti bell to make sure you know when I drop new content and when I go live. Also, like the video. Please like the video. If you got anything out of this video, I'd appreciate you hitting that like. It's free and it helps with, other people like you who are looking to find an answer for your graphics card and Black Myth Wukong. But yeah, man, I appreciate everybody watching. Y'all have a good one. And until next time, peace.